All right, well, I'm here with Hannah Andres, who was one of our students in the MMR program a couple of years ago. Actually, the last time prior to the recording that I was in the classroom with students, she was in that class. And welcome, Hannah.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
So you were a student not that long ago, and that means that you're still relatively new to the field as well. And I was
Yeah.
just kind of curious starting out, because I know you have kind of an interesting background. What drew you to the field of marketing research?
So initially, I did undergrad at SIUE and I was doing psychology and communications and really fell in love with that. Um, Everyone thinks psychology is fascinating, but I always like to say I thought it was even more fascinating than others. And I knew that it's something that I love where I love to figure out how people work and how their brains are working and why they believe or think that in the things that they do. And but I also knew towards the end of undergrad that I didn't want to go the clinical route just because it was it could be very heavy when it comes to actually being a psychologist and all of this stuff. I don't think that I would be the best person for that because I'd wear it on my sleeve. So I was just looking into other options, and Dr. Ram at the time was the director, and he actually came into one of my undergrad classes and spoke about MMR. And I was like, this sounds perfect. I mean, you're kind of mixing into the business world, but also psychology is a piece to it in a way, especially when it comes to qualitative research. And you still get to talk with people, interact with people, and see how they're thinking and feeling. And so that just kind of captured me that day. I think maybe that day is when I sent in my application for the MMR program. So, and it was the best decision I could have made at that point. But it kind of, in a way, it fell into my lap, to be honest, but in the best way possible.
So I know that you really wanted to get into qualitative research at some point as a student. Did you start off wanting to be a qualitative researcher, or is that something that kind of came after you took the class and got to learn a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so I always knew that there were various paths that you can take with MMR, which is a beautiful thing. I knew that, I wasn't as into the heavy analytics, heavy numbers. And I always knew that I was more, I gravitated more towards, being able to do focus groups and all of those traditional types of aspects of research. But the qualitative classes really, when I solidified that this is absolutely the path that I would want to take when it comes to marketing research in the business world. And after even having conversations with you, I knew that it's not always easy nowadays to get into qualitative, but I knew that that's what my heart was set on. But yeah, taking the qualitative class after it's just so interesting, and I love that aspect of research more than crunching numbers, even though you have to do that sometimes. But yeah, it really solidified my wanting for qual as a career.
Well, while you were a student, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned during your time in the MMR program?
Oh, I think the biggest lesson that I learned is to trust myself. And I know that sounds vague, but there are a lot of talented people in this program. You're starting to see very talented professors that know a lot, and it can start to get intimidating, and pressure can build. And the lesson I learned was not to compare myself to other people as well. Trust myself, what I'm thinking. Um, I felt that I got into the program for a reason, and I just need to relax and be confident in my ideas and what I'm thinking. And um, although in academia, it can be really structured to see kind of, obviously, you have to know the basics, but trying to start turning the wheels on being a little bit more creative and what else can I do with this, because there are new forms of research every day forming, and just trying to get into that mindset of trust your own ideas. You can, brainstorm with other people in the MMR program and your professors and everything. And a big thing also was to work with the people that are in the program. Obviously, I had many people in the program that we were close and were able to get through it together and had a sense of camaraderie more than anything. And although there's not really one way of doing things in research, you can at least have that sense of we're in this together. So that was trusting myself was a big thing that I learned in that accelerated program for sure.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from other aspects of your background? So, the psychology background that you have, or the management background that you have, or other things that you've done?
Yeah, with that, it's interesting. I actually first started out with in undergrad. I started out doing mass communications. Really didn't like that and wanted to go into this broadcasting thing, and then eventually found psychology. And then even through the MMR program, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And with all of that, it's I think what I learned is just throughout everything in life, don't give up on what you end up wanting to do. And qualitative research, and as we've discussed before, can be a somewhat difficult field to get into, especially with how it is these days and how digital everything is. And I also specifically, this was more just for my situation, but right when I graduated, we were going through COVID. So it was very difficult to find a job somewhere, especially a job that is a little more difficult to kind of navigate, where those positions are starting out your career in qualitative. But I never gave up. And I knew that if I needed to find just a data analyst position somewhere, I could do that for a while, but I never wanted to give up on the fact that I wanted to do qual. So once you have your heart and mind set on something, keep going for it. If you have to do other things in the meantime, like manage a pizza place like I did, do it until you can get to where you want to be.
My son would argue that you probably had the better job arguing or managing a pizza place than doing qualitative research. So
yeah, I mean,
it was trying to impress.
It was fun, but I also was in the restaurant industry for 8 years, all throughout education. So I was like, I'm definitely ready for the next chapter. So I was ready to get out of it. But I'm sure, yeah, your son would love the pizza place.
Well, now that you are working as a marketing research professional, what are some of the things that you are doing with qualitative research?
Yeah, so very exciting stuff. When I first started, it was remote, and I am still remote. So I have not seen the St. Louis office yet. Hopefully I'll be able to get out there soon. But it's been really, I thought it would be difficult to start out as remote. My company made it pretty easy, had good onboarding and everything. But what we've been doing mostly, we've still been doing focus groups. We've still been doing IDIs. I have helped with some of the quant segmentation and some of those ANU workshops, stuff like that. But mostly what I do is use digital platforms to watch and take notes for focus groups and IDIs, and then help with the reporting process. And all of our reports are through PowerPoint, very visual nowadays, creating those big, headlines that are kind of impactful and provocative. And that's basically what I've been doing the most, which is different from what I expected when I was in the MMR program, because I didn't know this digital switch would happen. But yeah, still doing focus groups and IDIs and everything. It's just all through a camera.
Are you working as the moderator and interviewer, or are you taking notes, or what role are you playing in those kind of projects?
Yeah, so I haven't moderated personally yet. I have been mostly taking thorough notes, and then kind of being the assistant to the moderator, setting everything up, and in contact with them during the interview. If anything goes wonky, I can help with. And then a big part in reporting towards the end. And hopefully I will be able to start moderating in the summer, I think. But I'm making that transition slowly. And especially since I feel like it is a little different because in this digital setting, I don't know, it's almost like, I feel like if I were in person with my colleagues and everything, it would be an easier transition to moderating. I don't know how to explain that better than I did, but the digital setting makes it a little bit more nerve-wracking, I feel like, for me to just start moderating on my own. But yeah, hopefully I'll be moderating soon. That is something I definitely am interested in, want to do. Yeah, but
It's
getting
definitely a
practice.
different skill set. I mean, I've
Yeah,
done both many times, and I find with online qual that you have to have smaller groups and you have to
mhm,
have more pauses and fewer questions because there's just a lot more awkwardness in getting people started. Um,
yes,
Honestly, the best groups I've had have had 3 or 4 people in them, and that when we do them in person, 10 to 12 is our norm. So
yeah,
uh, it's really different, and I think that that's one of the things that right now there's a whole generation of researchers of which you're part, of which students in the MMR program are a part, that are getting to learn skills that many traditional researchers kind of looked at it as exotic, and now they're
yeah,
needed.
yeah. And it's our moderators are incredible and who I've been working with. And from what I can tell, normally, say you're in a focus group, you are as the moderator in the room, and then there's a back room, and then you can go back for notes later to talk to the client. In this digital setting, we have a side chat for clients to right then and there have instant questions and feedback while the interview is going on. Also, while they're trying to talk with us about anything that we need to do. So the fact that the moderator is online, have all these different chats going, has this guide in front of them, trying to probe other questions, and it's intimidating for sure. They're incredible at it, and they've been doing it for a long time. I have to remind myself I'll get there, but it's exciting to watch though, for sure.
Wonderful. Have you been involved in any aspects of qualitative design or in terms of the reporting side of things where you've been able to really use some of those skills you learned in the MMR program?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest thing is writing, and that was something that in undergrad I was not a great writer. I'm just going to be honest about that. I've grown a lot with that, and in this digital environment, you're sending emails and messages and writing proposals and stuff like that every day, and you're using those skills. So that's something that um, MMR definitely strengthened my writing skills, specifically the qualitative class, by far. And knowing how to summarize, not put in fluff, support it with quotes, all of that fun stuff. I use it every day uh, at Brado. And yeah, I think that's probably my biggest thing. I haven't so much touched proposals.
Mhm.
I usually kind of come in after that, but yeah, with reporting, definitely those writing skills come into play and being able to summarize well.
And just for the benefit of students, because I have been to the Insights Lab and to Brado, but a lot of them probably have not at this point. Can you just describe a little bit about, I know you're not working in that environment right now, but you're going to be eventually.
Yeah.
Describe that environment a little bit just for their benefit.
So, yeah, I mean, it's really great. So in creative strategy, we have a ton of internal things as well. We have a session called Rent Free Insights that we have once a week. We have Psych Fridays. We have mini med school sessions. And all of these are also for us internally to understand and come together what's going on around the world, in the world around us, and kind of talk about it and how that can relate to the work that we're doing in marketing research. And that's another big thing as far as advice that I would give any incoming students is start now and open your eyes to what's going on around you. Because first of all, the world is changing rapidly now more than ever. And just even watching commercials and starting to figure out, kind of have that previous thought of how did they get here, and what was the insight here when looking at this commercial. What was the insight that led to them to this decision, and try to start thinking in that way. And but yeah, we come together a lot for just talking about what's going on and trying to strengthen our ability to understand insights in the world around us. So pretty exciting stuff.
Wonderful. Well, I would be remiss if I didn't close out our interview by talking to you a little bit about your advice for students. And I want to begin just by asking, so 550 is going to be coming up for these students, and you've been through it. You've
Yeah.
lived tell the tale. Can you offer some advice on how to be successful at 550?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the first thing you need to know is that not everything that you plan is going to go accordingly, and that is just kind of a thing when that is something said for all research. Things happen, and that's okay. Um, Another huge piece of advice is do not procrastinate. Don't do it. Just really kind of have time to yourself. I would kind of just sit down with myself and my thoughts once a week during that class to just think, not do anything. I mean, I'll jot down my notes of my brainstorms, but just start thinking. And if you just give yourself that time, it can help a lot in the long run when you start to actually type away at things you need to do and create those IDIs and those surveys and what you're doing. Just take some time to think about what you're doing, because it's going to help you in the long run. And then the last little bit, a lot of people in my class, and again, this is maybe just for my class, came out with work. It seemed like the goal was almost to try to, out of your survey, come up with some sort of segmentation. And I tried for weeks with the data, I'm telling you, to try to manipulate it, analyze it. And I just, for my specific project, it didn't work out for me to do a segmentation. The research wasn't differentiated enough between groups, and that's okay. It's okay to have differences, and that comes back to that comparative piece. Just do the best work that you can with what you've made, and be confident in your ideas and your decisions. Not everyone's is going to look the same, and that's okay, because that's a part of research too. It's also a part of creativity, along with structure and knowing how to do what you need to do. But it is okay if your project looks a little different, and that might even be a good thing. It might be some flair. So just be confident, and it's okay to be different.
And I remember, because your class was really large, so we had 2 different days of presentations, and I remember several students that did that segmentation got hammered for it because they had
Yeah,
applied it, but it wasn't really the right analysis for what they needed to be doing. And so
correct.
sometimes too, trying to do what everyone else does can make that be the thing that you have to defend in front of the faculty and the guests.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's a huge thing too. And that's a part of that confidence piece, go with your ideas, but be confident on it, and know your stuff, just make sure you practice. Just keep practicing. That's the only way you're ever going to do well at anything in life, is to practice. And, take that time to yourself, and, take all the information in, back up what you're doing, but be confident in it.
well, what other advice would you give to MMR students who aspire to work in qualitative research one day?
Yeah, I would say definitely look for, when I was actually searching for a job, it's important to look for certain keywords. And I know that there's even been, lists that either you or even Dr. Flight, someone has even posted on LinkedIn that I've seen before, that are kind of keywords when you're searching for a job. And sometimes it's creative strategist. Sometimes it can go more towards research and consulting. So it's kind of hidden. You can't really necessarily say qualitative research and you're going to find a job necessarily. But just stay strong in that, and make sure you network. It's exhausting for introverts, and I know that, but it is so worth it. I have met so many people, not only through the MMR program, but outside of that, that just get little tidbits, places, talk to people, have little coffee dates with people or virtual coffee dates if you can't do that right now, and just get to know people, get your name out there, um, and be consistent, um, or persistent. I'm sorry, because I interviewed with my company back in March. They went on a hiring freeze, and then I didn't hear back from them for 5 or 6 months. But I knew I still wanted to work there. So every month or so, I would just check in with their HR person I had been in contact with, and they eventually reached out to me. So, if it's something you really want, go for it. Um, but yeah, just stay persistent, keep on going. It can be hard sometimes, and I think it was especially hard for me just because of COVID. Hopefully these students will have an easier time. I am so hoping for that. But yeah, just keep networking, and be creative with your actual job searches, because it can be hidden some places somewhere. So do your research. I guess there's
Thank
that.
you. Yeah, everybody has a different journey. I mean, I have talked to so many people that graduated from the program that did things differently than me and just had different opportunities. And the one thing I can say about all of our students is that if they want to work in this field, the jobs are out there, but you have
Yeah.
to, as you said, be persistent, and networking does make a big difference. Well, Hannah, I
Yes.
really want to thank you for taking time to share your insights and perspectives with the students in the class. And I'm going to remind them constantly that not that long ago, you were sitting in their seat, and you have a
Yes.
lot of this perspective has come to you from just the time that's passed since you were in their seat. So
Yeah.
thanks again, and have a wonderful day. I'm going to stay
Yeah.
here.
Of course. Thank you so much.